that we're all able to access. Here's Kenya. Who roasts Kenyan coffee in here?
Today.
Less Kenyan than they used to.
Yeah.
Well, here we can see why. And one of the features of the 10-year moving average graph is it actually masks some of the actual trends. Probably production's fallen off steeper, but I'm cushioning that because of the model I've chosen. But it's half. It's half it was 20 years ago. What's it going to look like another 20 years' time? Here's Colombia. You know, the ever-optimistic Colombian Coffee Federation is always saying how production's going to be up this year. And for various reasons they've been stymied, partly because of the weather, partly because they're struggling to get farmers to renovate at the levels that they're wanting them to, because they're a bit reluctant to take on the loans that they would need to through the Federation for complicated reasons. Their production peaked in 1998. And this is reflected a little through the data. You're buying coffee from Kenya. The farmer who grew it's probably 56 years old, and their son's probably not on the farm. Colombia 52, 53 I read sometimes. Vietnam 30. It's a future in Vietnamese coffee if that's what you want. Cuba. It's the same situation as Kenya. Just ask Jeff next time you're looking for Cuban coffee. You want to grow a business on the back of that, so it's tough. It's tough. Mexico, similar situation. I was visiting co-ops in Chiapas in southern Mexico, start of last year, and I hardly saw a farmer less than 50 years of age. And when I asked them what they were looking for to the future, they say, we just want to be able to die on the land. We would like to be able to get enough money from coffee to see ourselves through. We can't go to the town. There's nothing there for us. We just want to keep doing what we've always done until we can't anymore. But they're struggling. They had a terrible year with the weather. Some of them had lost 90% of their production. And I said, well, what happens now? And they said, well, we're not going to starve. It's about as good as it gets if you have a number of factors like that impacting all at one time. So it's got a series of slides. I can scoop through them pretty quickly just to show you a little bit of the reality of life out at Origin. We buy a lot of coffee from Ethiopia. They're urgently trying to get their kids more education. And the key reason why, as I say, we want to teach our children to be employed in sectors other than farming, because even if they want to be farmers, there's no land. There's population pressure in a lot of parts of Africa particularly. The average size of a farm in Tanzania is half a hectare. The average production in Tanzania around Kilimanjaro is 60 kilograms.
Bring their coffee in to sell at the shops and shopping bags.
Weather issues. On Kilimanjaro, again, we were hearing the long-term decline in water that they've seen, which meant that 2/3 of the mountainside springs that irrigate their farms don't flow anymore. We see much more short-term swings in the weather. It seems to be that everywhere I'm going these days, the production's down 30 or 40% for one reason or another. It was a very tough year in East Africa last year through all the Americas that we buy coffee from as well. Just going back to that one, we visited Gumatindo in November. Their rains were late, but when they came hard, and they had massive flooding, mudslides on the mountain, 300 people killed. Talk about moving a lot of farmers off Mount Eldon because it's become so deforested they can't be sure the future's safe for farming. Other kinds of impacts of fluctuations in the weather, it becomes more difficult to control diseases like this one. It's called Rooster's Eye or Boco de Gallo. Probably Barocca. Other people might know better about Barocca, but I think it gets a better hold when there's not enough sunshine either. I think it's quite an issue in Colombia at the moment. It's hard work growing coffee. Antonio, he grows 3 tons of sherry each year, takes them back down to his backyard in the town of Huacaltenango in the Huehuetenango region of Guatemala, and he hand pulps it. He maybe do it, and it's really hard work. And then he'll put it in a bucket, and he'll ferment it in the bucket, and then he'll lay it on his tarpaulin, and it's very labour intensive. The good news story about Guaya that we buy from, as a cooperative now, they've been able to fund their own wet processing mill, so that's one of the benefits we see from associations, that they can get some economy of scale, and it's going to improve the quality, it's going to cut down their workload significantly. And here's another wet processing mill that's been constructed at Protocop, cooperative in Nicaragua that we buy from. It's good for them in a number of ways. Not only does it make it easier for them to get their coffee processed to a higher standard, cuts down their workloads. They realise there's issues with contamination, local water supply. They're dealing with that with a recycling scheme, and it's going to be much more water efficient because they've been told that in the long term they're going to have a lot less rain than they used to have. So they're trying to get some climate change mitigation underway now. But they didn't fund this through our contracts. They built this with the extra funding that they're able to get from organisations, including trade aid. I should explain that we work with cooperatives in a number of ways. One of the ways we can support them is through the price that we would pay through our contract and when we give them the money, and that's really critical to them. Another way that we can help them is through channeling of money from you all, through the New Zealand NZAID capacity building program. We can get some of that money up to support infrastructural improvements for farmers, and they rely on that a lot for this kind of activity. We also profit share as an organisation. So we work in various ways, but what we've come to understand is that we can only go so far through our contracts. I can only be ultimately as fair as you allow me to be, and your customers will allow you to be by association. That's the challenge. Ageing of coffee trees. Imagine if you had a farm that was 15 units in size maybe, and you've got coffee as your main item that you produce, and every year, as a matter of course, you want to take 1 unit of production out to renovate those trees. You either cut it down at the stump or regrow again, or you'll take it out entirely and plant another plant. And you have to lose the income off that plot for 4 years probably until a new tree will replace that. But farmers have become so cash-strapped in so many places that we buy from, they can't afford to lose that income. They know that it's not right. They say, we want to be renovating our farms in the normal fashion, but I just need that income. So they've gotten, in a lot of places, well behind in their renovation programs. And so recurring conversations I have out at cooperatives at Origin is there anything else you can do to support us with renovation? Typically the cooperatives that we buy from, they're very conscious of the problem. They're addressing this as best they can. What they lack is the money. They've got the plans, and it's just a matter of money for them now. So typical situation we find out in Guatemala, where we buy from, a lot of the trees, they've got 30, 40 years old. They should have been taken out 20 years ago. They should look more like that, but they don't. Cooperatives, and as we've gone through a process of establishing stronger links with cooperatives, they tell us more, and they're coming up more with comments like, well, we've been trying to address our challenge through higher prices, but we've concluded that higher prices alone aren't the answer. If our production's always going to fall, you'll never be able to offset that. You'll never be able to sell our coffee for high enough prices. So we've got to address the volume issue. When I talk with agronomists out at farms, at cooperatives, different scenarios in different countries, but I've been able to synthesise a lot of the data that I've collected to show that they think that a neglected coffee farm, if it was properly renovated again, could double its production by the time that they've gone through the cycle, which they try and do in the shortest manageable time frame, just about 10 years. And inevitably there's going to be a drop in production in the first 4 or so years until the new plants start to come away again. And it's that period there, and the farmers say, we're not asking for handouts, we're happy to loan the money, but we've just got to be able to bridge, we need bridging finance for this period here. So co-ops set up revolving loan systems through the cooperative to support farmers. And they're just looking for more sources of funding. And the cost is not cheap. It's been calculated generally between $2,500 and $5,000 per hectare. For a co-op like Protocop in Nicaragua with 2,000 members, it's about $20 million. $10 million at East Mountain, Mexico, with about 1,000 members.